What's up, everybody? Welcome to The Conversation, a Crosspoint City Young Adults podcast created to help young adults know and follow Jesus. My name's Darian, and we got Ansley and
Darian.
Carlos.
What up?
I said it normal that time for you.
Yeah, because usually you say it weird.
Well,
All right, we're about to start talking about a topic that you guys have been wanting to talk about for a while.
Yeah, this matters.
show does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, so before we start, let's just talk about the sermon. What did you guys think?
I think you did good.
Well, not how I did.
Well, I just want to tell you, I think you did really good, my friend.
Appreciate it. But did anything stick out to you?
I think the biggest thing that I thought was really good was having a man, obviously you.
Thank you.
Just a man from the stage. Yeah, I can't remember verbatim what you said, so please feel free to clean it up. But something along the lines of just telling women, like, don't let a man not see your value and not cherish you.
Yeah, nobody can degrade you since God has dignified you.
Yeah, because I think so many women, they crave that male attention so much that they're willing to not be cherished. And in the end, it just leaves them more broken. But so I just love that you hit on that.
Yeah, you talked about how we are royalty.
That's
and
right.
we're children of God. And so we should view ourselves as that.
Yep.
I feel like all of it, being on this side of dating, so being married and have dated different people, and I've done it wrong many times, all of it just made so much sense. All of it was so true. And so I hope people listen to it and listen to these episodes and apply it to their lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I think when I was writing it, it was the most natural sermon ever. Just because I was like, man, this is practical advice that I would give somebody just sitting across the table.
Yeah.
You know? And then being able to write it and put it into like order, I was like, yeah, this is gonna be long, and it was, but I feel like it was gonna be helpful. So I hope it helped somebody. So if you didn't listen to it, it's on our YouTube and Spotify, so you can check it out there. But these episodes are going to be surrounded around all the 8 steps that we said, hey, to date well, these are the things that you got to do. And so the first thing was that if you want to date well in our world today, as a Christian, Jesus has to be king. Has to be king.
Can't be a side piece.
Can't be a side piece, can't be a sidekick, and can't be, do you guys remember the last one? Side piece, sidekick, and third wheel.
Okay.
That
I was
makes
thinking about
sense.
the Boaz joke that I'm not going to repeat.
Yeah, you had to be there. But yeah, so you can't be a side piece. Well, you can't be a side piece. You can't be a side piece either. He can't be a third
Don't do
wheel.
it.
He can't be a sidekick. And the question that we're going to kick off today is, why do you think making Jesus the king of your life changes everything, especially when it comes to dating? Why is Jesus being king of your life change everything, especially when it comes to dating? Why do you think that is?
So, do you want me to go first?
Yeah, go.
I think it changes everything because he is our creator. I feel like Pastor James really touched on this past Sunday in his sermon, and you can help me think of the exact moment that he shared on it. But like, if he's our creator, he knows how life is supposed to go. And so when we follow him with everything and we surrender every area of our lives under his lordship, things go as they're designed to go.
Yeah.
But when we don't, that's when things start to break. So I feel like he makes everything healthy, especially our dating lives. He makes it healthy and vibrant and thriving because he makes it as it's designed to be.
Yeah. No, that's good. I like that. What about you, Darren? What do you think?
I just think of when Jesus is the foundation of your life, your confidence in following him and the decisions you make in response to obeying him, there's just a trust there. When he is truly the foundation of your life, when it comes to, like, from a woman's perspective, if I'm dating a guy and I know that his foundation is Jesus, I'm going to be more likely to follow and trust his leadership. Even if I disagree with something, as long as it's not a biblical contradiction, if it's just like a preference-based disagreement, I'm still going to be more willing to trust him because I know where his foundation is. So I think it's really helps with trust when Jesus is the foundation.
Yeah.
And it's also, you know who they're going to have to answer to if they ain't doing what they need to do.
Yeah,
So,
that is true.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I would agree with all that. It does change everything. It changes the way you live, but it changes the way you date because you are following somebody now.
Yeah.
So you got to make sure that you're doing right by them before you do right by this other person.
Right.
Does that
Yeah.
make sense? So I think that it changes the way we date because he has a standard in a way we're supposed to live. Not
Right.
just in dating, because obviously if you look in the Bible, you're not going to find the word dating. That's actually like a really new term in the last 100 to 120 years that it's actually like surfaced in our society. So dating is relatively new, but honoring God in all relationships,
Correct.
that's a lifetime, that's an old thing. That's
Right.
not new. So I think when you follow God and you make Jesus king, what that does, it changes the way you live and it makes you change the way you date. And so I think when you think of purity and holiness and treating people right, and then also when you get stuck in these decisions, because you're not king, you can't follow your flesh because you're not in charge. So you're not
Yeah.
supposed to do the things that you want to do. You're supposed to do the things that Jesus wants you to do.
Right.
And he wants you to honor people
Yeah.
in dating and in the relationship. So I think that it just changes everything. Like there's
Right.
no way that you can have Jesus as king and not date well.
Yeah.
Because if he's your king, he should be able to give you orders too.
Well, and when you chose to make Jesus king of your life, you did it because you knew he was a good God worth following.
That's good.
And so if you know his character and you know just the way that he loves and sees you, I think that is going to just be a ripple effect and overflow in your life too with everything.
Oh, absolutely. Well, you guys said that you didn't date well. Okay, I'm not saying you said it. I didn't say it.
I
I
said
did
it.
say that. I said, Ainsley, I don't
so-
know what advice I'll be able to give because
So you being, here's the question: were you well, that's not a good question. I was going to say, were you following Jesus? Were you a Christian? Why do you think you didn't date well on this
Because
side?
I found my identity in the relationship I was in.
Yeah.
And I was thinking this morning, I knew we were going to have this podcast. I was thinking, why did I do that? Why did I find my identity in having a relationship? I don't know the answer yet. I've been thinking through that. But yeah, I just needed someone. It didn't matter how great their character was. I just thought I needed to be dating somebody. Maybe it was social pressure. I don't know what, but I wasn't willing to wait on the right person
Yeah.
until I surrendered that to the Lord.
Well, I just thought that when I didn't follow Jesus in my dating, it's because I didn't trust him.
Yeah.
I remember I was talking to somebody, I don't know who it was, but they were talking about, they actually came up to me and they said, I struggle with trusting God because I just don't believe that he has somebody for me, right? So they don't
Wow.
trust them in their dating life because they think that God is holding out on them, and it's just the lies of the enemy. So there's like
Yeah,
a whole
that's
bunch of things that are
straight
combating it. But I think it's just hard because, one, I think pride gets in the way. We think that we know best and we think that we can do whatever we want and kind of get away with it. But then, two, I don't think we know Jesus enough to trust him with one of the biggest parts of our life, especially like when you're a young adult. Pretty much high school all the way till you get married. I mean, being in a relationship is so big. And in the church, it's kind of like if you're single, you're kind of weird, Like they ask you like, what's wrong with that person? Why are they single this long, So I could see the pressures of church and all this stuff can get into it. And so I think it's just trust. Like we just don't trust Jesus that he's going to have the best for us, or that his timing is best. And it's because we've kind of found our identity in the person we're with instead of the king we represent.
And you
So,
begin to settle.
Yeah, and you kind of touched on it with your answer, but I was going to say a lack of discipleship in the sense of truly
That's a good answer,
understanding
yeah.
how loved you are.
Yeah.
I think when I reflect back on past relationships, it was because, well, one, I didn't have the best home life. So I think a part of me,
Yeah,
just the human side
impacted
of me,
it.
was yearning
Yeah.
for some level of intimacy relationally. And so I think that caused me to settle with a lot. And, a lot of women, we think we're fixers and that we can fix these guys, but only God can.
Yeah.
But I do think a big part of it was truly not understanding that I am so loved by God and so seen by God and so protected and fought for by God. And I think now that I have that awareness and I just have a really just beautiful relationship with the Lord now, and it's really helped my confidence in my identity, but it's also helped me heal
Yeah.
and place those things, just place my confidence in Him and
Yeah.
my worth in Him. So
No, that's
Or made
good.
me tear up.
I know. Ainsley's eyes are leaking, y'all.
You
Yeah,
know
that's
your
really good.
identity, so you're able to walk it out well.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good. So that actually leads us to the next question. What are some practical, everyday ways you can keep Jesus at the center of your relationship? Right? So center of your life and center of your relationship. Like, what are some practical ways to keep Jesus king?
Go to church together.
Go to church
Yeah.
together. That's a lot of people go to church together though, and they still sin together.
Yeah, they do be sinning together.
You know, they
some
go
of,
to
some
church
of those
and then
sins
sin.
take two to sin. Okay.
Yeah, they sin and then go to church after.
I'm just
Yeah.
thinking about so many girls who are dating guys and they're like, wanting to drag them to church.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, don't do that now. Because when
And-
you get married, they're not just gonna. Oh, I want to go to church now.
Not only that, because I was that girl where I took the man, he's like, I'll go to church with you, but he definitely openly professed he was not going to be a believer. But I would say in those moments, do you really, like, if you're genuinely following Jesus, don't you want your significant other to have a genuine relationship with him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
I do think it's hard though. You know, like I'm
Yeah.
just thinking it from that person's like point of view. Like if they're like, let's say that they started following Jesus, you know, and they're relatively new to this.
Okay.
And they've been dating this person, and then they find out that you have to be equally yoked, and that person's not believing what you believe. I think it's really hard to
That is
surrender
hard.
that, you know? And so I'm not saying that, you know, you get a pass or anything like that. But I would say, like, I know it's not easy to just give up that relationship.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what I would encourage somebody, it's worth it. But just understand, like, if you, what's the proverb? It says, like, a prudent person sees danger coming and hides behind a rock, but a fool keeps on going.
Yeah.
You become a fool when you think that that person's gonna change overnight. You know,
Yeah.
I think God can change people, and He's the only person that can change a heart, but you can't. And so you don't want to put yourself in a situation where it's just going to be tough. And I've seen it where people have married somebody who do not believe what they believe, and it's a struggle now.
Yeah. Well, I would also say, are you really protecting your integrity in your walk with the Lord? Like, what does showing up well with the Lord look like? Because I've had women ask me, because they're either dating an unbeliever or somebody who just isn't as far along in their faith as the other person. And the best piece of advice I got was, what does operating with integrity look like with your
That's a
walk?
good
Like
word.
how, when you are choosing to prioritize the Lord and just continue to make decisions that honor the Lord has a way of just
Yeah,
bringing
pruning it out.
clarity and making things, more clear. And pruning out is a good way to put it. But I would also say we do serve a jealous God. And so I think there is a little bit of a tension of if we sometimes can put relationships, and I can see it in Christian relationships too, but I see it a lot more with people that are dating non-believers, where they'll start to put their significant other in a higher place than the Lord. Does that kind of make sense what I'm saying?
that happens. Yeah, it becomes their idol. I mean, I see
Yeah.
that with kids. I see that with sports. I see that with so many things.
Yeah. I know in dating it just happens a lot more, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, I think, but why do you think the first commandment is do not have any other gods? You know,
Yeah.
like it's just because we're just so prone to put things in the
Yeah.
wrong place. And I think for dating, I think that when you date somebody that is an unbeliever and is not, not following Jesus, I think it's just going to make it hard because they're fighting for that number one spot. I mean, that's what just the world is looking for. They're looking for that number one spot. So there's going to be that tension there. But then you said something that we could probably talk about. So you said if they're not as far along, what if they're surrendered to Jesus, but they're, not as
Just
mature
younger in their
as you?
faith.
What would you say to that person? Would you say that there's hope? Because we just said, hey, and I know equally yoked and all that, but I'm just asking, like, what if somebody is dating somebody and they just became a believer, and now?
I think
They-
sorry, go ahead.
No,
and finish.
I was just gonna.
I was going to say my first piece of advice would probably be, is there active life change happening? Like, is this person proactively trying to kill sin in their life? Are they proactively trying to, on their own accord, spend time with Jesus and come to church and still be plugged into godly community? I also would encourage to have really hard conversations. I think it is fair to set we can't hold people to expectations if we don't have the conversation with them. I've heard somebody say that a undiscussed expectations or predetermined resentments or something like that. I'm probably butchering that sentence a little bit. But all that's to say is I think it's fair to have conversations like, hey, here's my expectations of what I look for in a significant other, especially a Christ-centered relationship.
Yeah.
And just have a really honest conversation. I would also say be grace-filled, and especially if you are the more mature believer in that situation, don't come off as holier than thou or condemning, but don't be afraid to ask the hard questions and really get an understanding of where the person is and if they're proactively trying to dive deeper in their walk. Does that make sense what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
That was good advice.
Is it different for a girl than a guy?
Yeah, I think so.
Why do you think so?
I do. I think guys, when they're in their faith, maybe not in today's society.
Just a good question.
I think at a time. Well, what I was gonna say, and I will
say-
redact the statement, but I'll still say it.
Redact. Okay.
Yeah.
Spell it. I'm spelling
It starts with an R. But I was gonna say, I feel like younger in the faith with guys, it's probably going to be more sexual related. Like they're going to be willing to push the boundaries, but I think girls are also pushing those
Tripping.
boundaries nowadays. And then with girls that are in their faith, I was going to say more of maybe divided attention and not really wanting to show up as often to church related things. And I would also say emotional maturity would be a big thing,
Yeah.
like a lack of it.
Yeah, my advice would be to find a mentor.
Yeah, for
if
sure.
they're dating. So let's say like if it's a guy and a girl, your job is to partner in discipleship, but your ultimate job, I wouldn't say, is to disciple your boyfriend or girlfriend.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I would say like if they're really trying to follow after Jesus, then help them find somebody who can disciple them, who can have those hard conversations with them, and who can also guide them and play that role for their life.
Yeah.
I don't think that needs to be you. I think you can help them in their discipleship. I think you can encourage them, but I really do think that it needs to be like a mentor role. But I do think like you just need to pray about it. Like
I was
I
about
don't
to
want to have like
say,
a blanket statement and
ask
say,
the
"Oh, you
Lord,
gotta."
He knows.
Yeah, pray about it, and I mean we're
Yeah,
going to talk
godly
about
counsel,
talk to wise people, and allow them to give you hard truth, but then also like understand that maybe God is asking you to put a pause on that.
Yeah.
But to hit your relationship with him right and that
Yeah.
person too. So just because you stop dating doesn't mean that you won't date later on. But I think if the goal is marriage, and trust me, I mean, there's so many proverbs that says you rather be live in the corner of an attic than marry a quarreling wife or anything like that. So it's pretty much saying like you don't want to marry the wrong person because this is something that
Yeah.
you're in for life. And so if you understand the weight of that, you are willing to wait.
Yeah.
You're not going to rush into it because marriage is hard work. Like
Yeah,
this
it is.
isn't this easy, right off into the sunset. Man, there are some days that it's just difficult. And if you don't have the Spirit of God with you, and if you don't know Jesus as your King, like it's going to be difficult for you to love and honor your wife. Men, I mean, you have to understand that. So
Yeah.
if you got to get your relationship with Jesus right, because when that happens, marriage and all relationships are just amazing because you don't cross boundaries, you don't have regret, you don't have shame, you don't have guilt, you don't have all these things that kind of destroy relationships, and it just helps you. So I think in that equally yoked part, you just
It
need
matters.
it matters, yeah. So anything you want to say on that, Ansley, before we go into like some practical ways on keeping?
So many things that I was thinking of as y'all kept talking.
The gears are turning.
Good night. Yeah.
Good night.
Being equally yoked really matters in dating. Like we want to get this well, we want to do this right in dating because you can make that decision if the Lord's calling you to break up with that person. You can do that in dating. But and the Lord calls us to be equally yoked to our person because He knows in marriage how rough it will be if you don't follow God's design for marriage. Like if you get married to that person who, for example, doesn't want to go to church, and just think about how hard that would be. They don't want to raise your children in church, or the person. I've had relationships where being cheated on. Like I cannot imagine with how hard marriage is. It is hard because the enemy comes against it. If those factors were into play, I cannot fathom that. But me and Kaya, like at the end of the day, the Lord is our firm foundation. So any disagreement we have, we come back to, I know how to treat you because the Lord has taught me how to treat you.
I really want to piggyback off that too.
What's up?
Yeah, she got a
Angela,
little
preach it.
fiery.
What's up?
and y'all can speak to this because obviously I'm not married and y'all are, but I have dated unbeliever. It also, when you're with somebody who isn't quite where you are in your faith, or they're just openly not a believer, it does impact your walk with the Lord
Oh
too.
yeah,
Yeah.
it drags you down.
It does, because
Easier to pull you down than to pull somebody
yeah,
up.
because let's say you try to load your kids up and take them to church and your spouse isn't happy about it.
Yeah.
It's now not only impacting you, it's now impacting the discipleship of your kids.
That's heavy. I
Or,
can't imagine.
Like if you go to try to spend quiet time with the Lord and your spouse is like, "What are you doing? Like, why are you like locked in your room?" They're not going to understand why you're trying to have that escape with the Lord and that private time with the Lord. Or, well, why are you every week going to Bible group? Like, what are you doing? You know, that's gonna cause division.
yeah.
Oh, for sure.
And a house divided will fall. I mean, that's scripture. So
It's just gonna be hard. So
Yeah.
even if like before you even get married, just like in dating, like you want to put everything or you everything in your life that's gonna help you and encourage your walk with Jesus.
Yeah.
And so if it's not helping you, it's hurting you, and
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
includes people like like we're not just talking about like in your dating it would affect you, but your friends, if they're not helping you, they're hurting you. You know, like
Yeah.
and I think for dating, you just don't want to go down that road. It's going to be difficult, and that's why we have to, like, if you want to date well, Jesus has to be king. Like
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
no it's buts or exceptions. I don't even know how to say it. What it's the buts about
If,
it?
ands, or
If,
buts.
ands, or
If
buts. But we can
it's
throw in
buts.
exceptions if you want.
Exceptions. What is it? If, ands, and buts?
Yeah.
Or buts.
If, ands, and booties? What the heck?
Okay, anyway, so Jesus.
All right.
let's-
All right. So, what are some practical everyday ways you can keep Jesus at the center of your relationship? Ainsley, you said go to church, have biblical community. What are some other ways to keep Jesus at the center of your relationship?
I would say prioritize him as an individual. I think sometimes in relationships, people try to prioritize him together as a couple, but you still
Ooh.
need that intimacy alone.
That's a
with
good
the Lord.
word.
Yeah.
I would also say just get in the Word. I know y'all probably hear us say that all the time, but there's
Every
so much
episode.
power in getting in the Word.
Yeah. I love that we say it all the time.
Yeah.
We're not saying anything new. So if this is profound, we gotta
Yeah.
have some
Open
other
your Bibles, y'all.
conversations.
And if you need a Bible, let us know. Okay?
Yeah, but just get in the Word by yourself.
Yeah.
You know, like don't. It could be a couples thing at times, but
Yeah.
you need your own time with God.
You do.
Yeah,
So-
but become the person you need to be.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. I know you put it down here, but just get a mentor.
Yeah.
Find somebody that can disciple you. You want Jesus to be at the center. Get somebody that you can follow, and their life is saying, "Follow me as I follow Christ." You
Yeah.
know, like get somebody that you can say, "Yeah, I want to be like you. Teach me how to pray. Teach me how to, treat people the way you treat them. Teach me how to lead." And it just helps you have those good conversations with people and keeps Jesus at the center. But then also community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How has community helped you guys out as you guys were dating in keeping God at the center?
I had mentors in my life that I invited their voice in. I invited honesty in, even when I didn't like it. And there were times that I didn't like it so much I didn't listen, and I just stayed in the relationship. And I can tell you today, I wasted time. I should have listened when they told me. I wasted so much time and heartbreak and all the things. But I think we're going to talk about this in another episode, but really quickly, like mentors reminded me of my worth. So when they saw me being treated a certain way, they were able to tell me that is not cool what I just saw.
Yeah.
And the Lord loves you more than that. So please follow him in your dating.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that.
I would also say it helped with conviction, not in like a condemning sense, but one of the biggest things that helped encourage and equip me to leave the relationship that I was in was going to small group and seeing other women chasing after Jesus and hearing the way that he was just showing up in their faithfulness to him. And that's not, I don't want that to be interpreted as prosperity gospel. I just am saying that in the sense of God is for you, and he's not going to punish you for living a life that honors him. It's not to say being a Christian is not going to come with its challenges, but God is for you. And I think that helped me to just work out the courage of, okay, Lord's not going to abandon me. If I make this big choice to leave this relationship, he's not going to leave me high and dry.
Yeah.
He has better for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's good, man. I love the fact that our community well, the community that you've had just reminded you of
Yeah.
how good God is. And that's the way it is. But I would say just having community also helps you confess the things that
Yes.
you've done.
There's
I
power
mean,
in confession for
yeah.
sure.
I think that when you try to live both lives, like this secret life on the side and then following Jesus and trying to be this goody, like it's just not going to work. You're either going to crash and burn, or you're going to leave the faith altogether because you're going to feel like it's too hard.
Yeah.
Or you're going to make a decision that's going to impact a lot of things. And so I just think that having people around you that can encourage you and keep you on track, helps you out. But then also just cultivating a prayer life would be my like simple thing. You want to keep
Yeah.
Jesus at the center, talk to him every day. Don't miss a day. And if you do miss a day, don't miss two. Like make it a constant conversation and just be open with them. So, hey, the last thing that we're going to talk about in this episode is, and I thought we kind of hinted a little bit on it, but what happens when Jesus isn't the priority in your dating life? How does that show up in your relationship, even in your walk with God? So, how does it affect it if people decide not to, keep Jesus at the center or a priority in the dating life? What do you think?
The first thing I initially think of is just you are sacrificing true peace and true joy. And when you're in a relationship or even just dating somebody that is not for you, and it's not honoring the Lord, that. At the end of the day, there's a part of you. I truly do believe that what is for you and what isn't for the most. Like if you're actually walking with the Lord.
Yeah, if you have the Holy Spirit, He's telling you.
He's convicting you. And I would just say, don't sacrifice your peace and joy in your walk with the Lord just to get some earthly thing that's not even going to be eternal. But I guess just that's what happens when Jesus isn't the priority. You compromise your joy and your peace.
Yeah. Well, I say you cross boundaries you never want to cross. You give people things you never wanted to give them. And you also waste time,
Yeah.
and you kind of hinted on it. I said it in the sermon. People don't realize that they're not getting any younger.
No.
And the time that you waste in the wrong relationships,
Years.
man, you're
It
not
could
getting
be.
that time back.
Yeah.
And then the crazy thing is when Jesus isn't king, you start to do things for other people that you're
Yeah.
never supposed to do.
Yeah.
You're only supposed to do those things in marriage. And it does impact you. Like you're never going to forget the things you see, the things you've done, the things you hear. And so it's just you're putting yourself in a spot that's going to make every other relationship harder. And I know that God can redeem it and God can use your story and all these things, and I get it, but what I'm trying to encourage you is don't put yourself in that situation in the first place.
Yeah.
And keeping Jesus king will help you not to do those things.
Yeah.
And so when he's not king, then there are going to be consequences and it's going to hurt, because sin hurts. Sin is a liar. He steals things from you, and he's going to make it the enemy is going to make it so appealing that to do all these things, but there are consequences to our sin. The beauty is that Jesus has paid for all of our sins, and he has freed us from the grips of sin, but they still impact us in what, because our decisions impact everything we do.
And sin oftentimes it doesn't just hurt you, it hurts those around you too.
For sure.
And so, especially in dating, if you're just going buck wild and not
Buck wild.
that was the churchified version. But if you, for real, are just going crazy and not dating in a God-honoring way, you are leaving a wake of broken people behind you.
Yeah, think
And
about
you
the
are just causing
people
so much hurt.
you should be discipling and mentoring. They're watching
Yep.
you not date well.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about them. But I guess who were you talking about of the people that get hurt?
Yeah.
Like if I'm the one that's going around just not honoring people and respecting and treating them like image bearers of Christ,
The people you're dating. Yeah,
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
You had anything to say about this, Ansley?
Yeah. What happens when Jesus isn't the priority of your dating life? I keep talking about Pastor James's sermon. I listened to it this morning. That's why it's fresh on my mind. Shout out, Pastor James. If you're watching this. Anyways, in his sermon, he talked about how silly you look when you're wearing clothes that don't fit you. And he's talking about how silly the believer looks when you're living a life that is not worthy of your calling. And That was like the
Yeah.
premise of that. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. I'm making sure I heard that right. So that was me. That was me in high school when I was dating. I mean, I was a follower of Jesus, but by me living how I wasn't supposed to and people seeing that, like it hurt my testimony. I just looked like a goofball being a follower of Jesus, but not following him in that area of my life. Like, what was I doing? So yeah, that's what happens. You wear clothes you're never meant to wear.
Yeah. No, I agree. I would say one last thing before we kind of close this episode. The last thing that happens, and I see this all the time, is you just create distance between you and God
Yeah.
because the other person is the priority. Jesus is not. And so what I see is people, they get into a relationship and they disappear and they don't show up. They stop coming to group. They stop reading their Bible. They stop praying. They stop going to church. And I mean, next thing you know, the relationship doesn't work out and they're
their
in
community's
And
shambles.
gone.
who are you? You've just
Yeah.
drifted without realizing it.
Well,
Yeah.
and they've a lot of times left their community.
Yeah.
And the community's hurt, and they don't even realize that the community's hurt because they,
Yeah.
That's sad.
Yeah, but it sucks. And that is a consequence of not having Jesus as a priority.
So we got to date well.
Yeah. Cool. Anything else before we end this episode?
God cares about who you date.
Yeah, he does.
And he deserves to be the king of our lives.
He does.
Yeah. So make him king. And if you need help with that, I mean, we would love to talk through that with you. We
Yes.
are here to help you in your walk with Jesus. So we're not just here telling you, hey, these are the things you got to do. We're here to help disciple, to
Yes.
help encourage, and to help point you in the right direction. So yeah, pull us aside if you're at church. If you need to talk to us, we love you guys, and we're here for you. And so we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Bye.